So, this all started like any other normal Saturday afternoon. Me and Sarah had been together for almost 2 years. She's amazing, honestly. I never thought I'd meet someone who gets me like she does. We met in college, both studying the same major, which was a bit of a fluke, but we hit it off instantly. We'd always talk for hours after class, grab coffee, and just enjoy each other's company. It was easy, you know? We got along so well, and I thought we were solid. But lately, there had been these little signs that something was off. Small things, like her pulling away when we watched movies or not texting as often throughout the day. I brushed it off at first, work stress, maybe. But on this particular Saturday, something felt different. Sarah had been distant all morning, barely saying a word as we got ready to head out. It was like there was this invisible wall between us. We were supposed to go to a friend's party later, but I could tell something was brewing under the surface. I didn't know what yet, but I felt it. And, of course, I ignored it. We were about halfway through our lunch when it finally happened. I said something dumb, like I usually do, and it set her off. We were talking about her job. She's been stressed lately with her new position, and I made some comment about how she should just chill out and not let work bother her so much. Yeah, I know, not my brightest moment. Her face went cold. I tried to backpedal, saying I didn't mean it like that, but she wasn't having it. She put her fork down, stared at me for a second, and then snapped, "You don't get it. You never get it." The words hit harder than I expected, like a punch to the gut. I was taken aback, but I tried to stay calm. "What do you mean? I just want to help." She crossed her arms and looked away, her voice barely above a whisper, "You don't help. You make everything feel like it's my problem to fix. I'm tired of carrying everything on my own." I had no idea what she meant, but before I could ask more, she stood up and said she needed some air. That's when the dread hit me. Something was wrong, really wrong, and I didn't know how to fix it. Sarah left the table without another word, and I sat there, completely frozen. I could feel the tension thick in the air. I had no clue what had just happened, but it was like a switch had been flipped. 1 minute, we were fine, and the next, she was shutting me out. I stayed there for a bit, trying to wrap my head around it. My mind was spinning. Was it just the comment? Or was there more going on that I didn't see? I texted her a couple of times, asking if she was okay, but no response. She wasn't answering her phone either. The silence was like a punch in the face. I ended up just sitting there, feeling like an idiot. I didn't even know what I was supposed to do. Should I apologize? Should I give her space? I wanted to reach out, but I didn't want to make things worse. Eventually, she came back after about an hour, but she was still cold, like the air between us was freezing. We didn't say much on the way to the party, and I could feel that awkwardness building up with every mile. I wanted to fix it, but I wasn't even sure where to start. When we finally got to the party, I thought maybe being around friends would help ease the tension. But no. It only made things worse. We barely even said hello to anyone before Sarah pulled me aside. Her face was tight with frustration, and I could tell she was holding something back. She wasn't making eye contact, which, if you know Sarah, is never a good sign. She's a very direct person, so when she's avoiding you, you know something's up. "You don't get it, do you?" she asked, her voice low but sharp. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I'm trying, Sarah. Can you just tell me what's going on?" She took a deep breath and then boom, everything came out. "I'm so tired of pretending like everything is fine when it's not. I'm not happy. I haven't been for a while now." My heart sank. I wanted to say something, to tell her how much I cared and how I could fix whatever was wrong, but she wasn't done. "It's like you don't even see me anymore," she continued, her voice rising. "I'm here, but I feel invisible. I feel like I've been carrying this whole relationship, like I'm the one putting in all the effort while you just coast along like everything's fine." I was stunned. I didn't even know how to respond. I felt like I'd just been blindsided, but there was also this knot of guilt forming in my stomach. Was I really that blind? Was I really making her feel this way? Her words hit harder than anything I'd ever heard. I just stood there, trying to process it all, but it felt like a punch to the chest. I always thought things were good between us. I thought we were a team. I never saw any of this coming. Sarah, I didn't know. I really didn't know, I stammered, my voice thick with emotion. She shook her head, her eyes glossing over. Of course you didn't know. You never listen. You never really see me. You're so caught up in your own world, in your own stuff, that you don't notice how much I'm struggling. I couldn't breathe. The guilt, the sadness, the overwhelming sense of failure all crashed over me at once. I thought I was a good boyfriend. I thought I was doing everything right. But in that moment, I realized how wrong I'd been. It wasn't about the big gestures or the occasional nice date. It was about being there, really being present, every day. And I had failed at that. I didn't know how to make it right. I wanted to apologize, to say something that would fix everything, but nothing seemed like it would be enough. How do you fix something this big? I had no answers. Just a sinking feeling that things might never be the same again. The party had faded into the background. People were laughing, dancing, having fun, but I couldn't focus on any of it. I barely registered when Sarah walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I couldn't blame her for wanting space. Hell, I needed space to process everything that had just been thrown at me. But I couldn't let her go just like that. I found her in the corner of the room, sitting alone, staring at her drink. I approached slowly, unsure of what to say or do. My hands were shaking. I'd never felt so helpless in my life. Sarah, please, I whispered, sitting down beside her. I don't know what to do, but I don't want to lose you. She didn't look at me. She just took a sip of her drink, her face still unreadable. The silence between us was deafening. I don't know if you can fix this, she finally said, her voice small and fragile. It's not about just fixing things with a couple of apologies. It's about me, it's about how I feel like I don't matter enough to you. That stung. You do matter, I said, feeling a lump in my throat. You mean everything to me. She shook her head slowly. Actions speak louder than words, and you haven't shown me that I'm a priority. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. I wanted to fix it. I needed to fix it. But in that moment, I had no idea how. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Sarah stayed quiet, lost in her own world, and I couldn't help but feel the weight of her words on my chest. I spent the whole night trying to catch her eye, trying to find a way to break through that cold wall she had put up between us, but it was impossible. Every attempt to talk felt like I was digging myself deeper into a hole. The more I tried to reach her, the further she seemed to pull away. We ended up leaving the party early. The ride home was silent. Not a word exchanged between us, and yet, it felt like we were screaming at each other with every second that passed. I wanted to hold her hand, pull her into my arms, and tell her everything would be okay, but she was so distant, I didn't know if it would help. When we got back to the apartment, she didn't even wait for me to park before she jumped out of the car and started heading inside. I didn't chase her. I was afraid if I said the wrong thing, it would be the last straw. But I couldn't just let it end like this. I stayed in the car for a few minutes, trying to get my thoughts together. How had we ended up here? How had things gone so wrong without me even noticing? Eventually, I forced myself out of the car and went inside. I found her sitting on the couch, staring at her phone, still avoiding eye contact. I knew the night wasn't over, but I didn't know where to begin. I stood there for a minute, just looking at her. The silence between us felt suffocating, like we were on different planets. My heart was pounding, my mind racing with all the things I could say, but none of them felt like they would do justice to what had happened. I needed to fix this, but how? Sarah, I said softly, breaking the silence. She didn't look up, didn't move. We can't keep doing this. I don't want to be the guy who's hurting you. I need to understand what I did wrong. She finally looked up, her eyes red and tired. I could tell she had been crying, but she was trying to hold it together. You're not listening, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You never listen. You just do what you want, and I'm always the one trying to make it work. I can't do this anymore. I felt like the ground was slipping out from under me. The panic hit me again, sharp and sudden. No, please. I'll listen. I promise I will. Just tell me how. She shook her head slowly, almost sadly. I don't know if it's enough anymore. I've told you how many times I'm struggling, but it never clicks. You think it's all about big gestures, but it's not. It's about us. It's about making time for each other, understanding each other's needs, and supporting each other not just in the easy moments, but through the hard ones too. Her words stung, but they were real. She was right. I hadn't been doing enough. I had been selfish, wrapped up in my own world without considering hers. I felt like the worst partner imaginable. I've been an idiot, Sarah. I've messed up, and I'm sorry. But I love you, and I don't want to lose you. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right, I pleaded, hoping she could see how genuine I was. She looked at me for a long time, searching my face, like she was deciding whether or not she could believe me. Then, in a voice that was almost too quiet to hear, she said, I don't know if I can believe you anymore. Her words hit like a ton of bricks. I don't know if I can believe you anymore. I felt like someone had just yanked the ground out from under me. It was like she had just let go of the last thread that was holding us together. The words echoed in my head, and I couldn't shake them. I don't want to be the guy who made you feel this way, Sarah, I said, my voice cracking. But if I'm being honest, I don't know what to do next. I feel like I'm losing you, and I don't know how to fix it. She looked at me, her expression unreadable. There was this pain in her eyes that I couldn't stand. I wanted to reach out, pull her close, and make all of this go away, but I knew I couldn't. Not without truly understanding what went wrong. I don't know if I can keep doing this, she said, her voice shaking a little. I've been trying for so long to make it work, but I don't think I'm getting what I need from this relationship. And that's not fair to either of us. That was it. The breaking point. I could feel my chest tightening as the weight of her words settled in. She was right. She wasn't getting what she needed. I hadn't been the partner she deserved. I hadn't been the person who saw her for who she was, for all her hopes, her struggles, and everything in between. And now, it felt like it was too late to fix it. I'm sorry, I whispered, my throat tight. I wish I had seen it sooner. I wish I could go back and do things differently. She didn't respond. Just turned her gaze back down at her phone, and the silence between us grew even heavier. The realization hit me hard, I might have already lost her, and all the apologies in the world wouldn't change that. I spent the rest of the night in a daze, wandering around the apartment, unsure of what to do. Sarah was quiet, distant, lost in her own thoughts. It felt like we were two strangers coexisting in the same space. The woman I loved was right there, but I felt so far away from her. I kept thinking back to everything she'd said, how I'd ignored her feelings, how I hadn't been there when she needed me, how I was always so wrapped up in my own world. It was like a punch to the gut each time I replayed her words in my head. What had I been doing all this time? I thought I was being a good boyfriend, a good partner. But I was so caught up in my own stuff, in my own comfort zone, that I didn't even notice she was falling apart. I hadn't been present. I had failed her in the worst way possible. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how much I had taken her for granted. She had always been the one trying to make things work. I had always expected things to just fall into place without putting in the effort myself. And now, I was paying the price. I went to bed that night with a heavy heart. I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what I could do to fix everything. But I knew the truth, there was no easy fix. No quick apology that would make all of this go away. I had to change. I had to become a better version of myself, someone who deserved to be with Sarah. But I had no idea where to start. All I could do was wait for her to decide what she wanted. And that thought, more than anything else, terrified me. The next morning, everything felt off. The air in the apartment was thick with the weight of unspoken words. Sarah was already up, sitting at the kitchen table, drinking coffee in silence. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept much, which made sense considering the emotional roller coaster the night before. I walked into the kitchen, unsure of how to break the silence. I didn't want to push her, but I also couldn't stand the emptiness between us. "Hey," I said quietly, my voice almost a whisper. She didn't look up right away, but eventually, she met my eyes. Her expression was softer than the night before, but still distant. "Hey," she replied, her voice flat. I sat down across from her, taking a deep breath. I needed to figure out where we went from here, but the fear of pushing her further away was overwhelming. "Listen, I know things are messed up right now, and I don't expect everything to be fixed overnight," I began. "But I need you to know that I'm serious about changing. I want to be the partner you deserve. I can't fix everything in one go, but I will try." Sarah looked at me for a moment, her gaze searching, almost as if she were trying to gauge whether I meant it. I couldn't read her. But then, she sighed and leaned back in her chair. "I know you want to try, but it's not just about trying. It's about showing me, proving it with your actions." I nodded, my chest tightening. "I understand that. I've been a fool, and I'm sorry. I wasn't there when you needed me, and I know that. I'll show you that I can be. But I can't do this alone, Sarah. I need you to be with me on this." There was a long pause. I could tell she was thinking it over, weighing everything. And I just sat there, waiting for her response, not knowing if it would be the answer I was hoping for or the final blow that ended everything. After what felt like an eternity of silence, Sarah finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady. "I've been trying to figure this out too," she said, glancing down at her coffee cup. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about what we've been through, what I need, and what you need. I'm not sure if I can just pretend like things are fine anymore, but I also don't want to just throw everything away without at least trying." My heart skipped a beat. There was a chance. A slim chance, but a chance nonetheless. "So, what does that mean?" I asked, my voice filled with a mixture of hope and fear. She hesitated, taking a deep breath before looking me in the eyes. "It means I'm willing to give this one more shot. But it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to happen overnight. You have to prove to me that you're really going to change. That you'll be here for me not just when it's convenient, but all the time. And I need to feel like I'm a priority in your life, not just an afterthought." I could feel the weight of her words. I wasn't going to be able to just coast anymore. I had to fight for her. For us. "I'll do whatever it takes, Sarah. I'll be there for you. I'll make you feel like you matter, because you do. You're everything to me." She nodded, but there was still a sadness in her eyes. "I want to believe you. I really do. But you need to understand that it's going to take time for me to trust that you've changed." I couldn't blame her. Trust had been shattered. And trust, once broken, wasn't something that could just be fixed with a few words. But hearing her say that she was willing to give us another chance gave me a sliver of hope, one I wasn't going to take for granted. "I get it," I said, my voice steady. "I'm ready to put in the work. I just need you to know that I love you, and I'm not going to give up on us." We sat there for a while longer, just letting the gravity of the moment settle. It wasn't a happy ending yet, but it was a beginning. A new chance to rebuild everything we had, or maybe even something stronger. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were on the same page again. It was a small step, but it was a step forward. And that was enough for me. The next few weeks were tough, to say the least. There wasn't any magical fix to our problems. I couldn't just say a few nice things and expect everything to be okay again. The road to rebuilding our relationship wasn't going to be smooth or quick. But Sarah had agreed to try, and that meant something. It meant we had a chance, and that was all I needed to hold on to. I started making changes immediately. I worked on being more present with her, actually listening when she spoke, putting down my phone during dinner, making time for her even when life got busy. It wasn't always easy. There were days when I slipped, when the old habits crept back in. But I was determined to fight through it. I also began to realize just how much Sarah had been carrying all on her own. She had always been there for me, always supporting me in whatever I needed, but I hadn't been as quick to return that support. Now, I was stepping up. I helped with things she used to handle alone, from running errands to just being there when she had a rough day at work. I didn't want her to feel like she was always doing everything by herself. There were times when things felt like they were slipping, when old patterns started to emerge. We'd have arguments or moments where I'd feel like I was losing her again. But we'd talk through it. We were communicating, something that had been missing for so long. And every time we did, I felt us getting a little bit stronger. Sarah, too, seemed to be trying. She wasn't as distant as she had been, but she wasn't the same either. She was cautious, understandably so, but she allowed herself to open up a little more, to share what was bothering her, what she needed. It wasn't perfect, but we were both learning how to navigate this new version of our relationship. We weren't fixed, not by a long shot, but we were getting there. And that was something. The road was long, and the work wasn't easy, but every day we both chose to try. And that was enough to keep me going. Part 14, The Realization. A month or so after that conversation, I woke up one morning with this sense of clarity I hadn't had before. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone while Sarah was in the kitchen making breakfast. As I watched her move around, I realized just how much I'd taken her for granted before. I could see her, really see her now, the little things that made her who she was, her laugh, the way she hummed to herself when she was cooking, the way she had this quiet strength I never fully appreciated until I was forced to see it. The changes I'd made weren't just about fixing her, they were about fixing me. I was learning to be a better version of myself, not just for her, but for me, too. I wasn't perfect. I wasn't going to be perfect. But I was trying. And for the first time in a long while, it felt like I was doing something right. When Sarah came over and sat down next to me, she smiled, and I could see a small but noticeable shift in her eyes. It was subtle, but it was there. There was still a lot of work to do, but we were getting closer to the people we both wanted to be, together. "We're okay, right?" I asked, a little unsure of myself. She looked at me, her face soft, and nodded. "Yeah, we're okay." I smiled, the weight I had been carrying slowly lifting off my shoulders. It wasn't easy, and it still wasn't perfect, but we were fighting for it. And I wasn't going to let that slip away again. Part 15, The Lesson Learned. Looking back, I can see just how much I've learned from this experience. Relationships aren't about grand gestures or perfect moments, they're about the day-to-day commitment to showing up for each other. It's about making time, being present, and, most importantly, listening. I spent so much time thinking I knew what was best for us, I didn't stop to ask if she felt seen, heard, or valued. I assumed everything was fine because I didn't see the cracks until they were too wide to ignore. My advice to anyone reading this? Pay attention to the small things. The everyday moments that matter more than you realize. Don't wait until things fall apart to realize how important they are. Show up for the person you love, not just when things are easy, but when they're hard, too. And if you're in a place where things are rough, don't give up without trying. Change doesn't happen overnight, but if both people are willing to fight for it, there's hope. Relationships are messy, complicated, and difficult, but they're worth it if you're willing to put in the work. So yeah, we're still figuring things out. But at least now, we're doing it together. And that's all I can ask for.